What's going on, guys? Dr.MooMoo here, and welcome back to another video where we will be ranking every piece of media I watched or read this time. We have a book this time in the month of November. Pretty packed month, and actually a pretty solid month, all things considered. There might be a bit of a hiccup here or there, but we'll see. No spoilers. We'll see how it goes. So let's begin. First, I watched Hadestown, a musical I've been wanting to watch for a little over 2 years. And since it came near me, I finally had the chance too, and it did not disappoint. All the songs slap, with Epic 3 being my favorite. I loved Hades in this, and his voice both in and out of song was so cool. His voice reminded me of the vegetable who sings the bunny song in the VeggieTales show, you know that show? But in a very more epic context. The entire cast and characters were excellent. Even the orchestra stood out, which I don't usually notice in these type of things. Orpheus and Eurydice had really good and unique singing voices that worked excellently together. Persephone was great and had good chemistry with Hades even when they were fighting. Hermes was a great narrator, and it was a fun time when he was on stage. The choir, or company as they call them in the cast, provided great backup vocals along with the Fates, who gave off an eerie vibe anytime they came into the spotlight. Also, props to the musical for including a spot where they highlight and allow us to applaud how great the orchestra did right when we came back from intermission. The stage design is terrific as well. Hades being above first, showing his power of God. Those lamps that string around when he tries to reach Hadestown was super cool. And the way the set opens up when he does reach it was jaw-dropping. Now, on to the heart of the play. Orpheus and Eurydice's relationship was set up super well in the beginning, with a beautiful love song making their love for each other clear and beautiful. When Orpheus focuses on writing his song that will change the world, he shuts out Eurydice, and as a result, she is pulled back by her doubt, which are represented by the Fates. Doubt that the world will get better trickles into her, and she soon believes going with Hades is her best chance at living in this life. Orpheus realizes his mistake of trying to change the future later and travels to Hadestown to try and change it now. So he goes to Hadestown himself to save Eurydice. Now let me talk about Hades real quick. Hades is unable to create a world Persephone loves, his wife, and she begins to doubt their love together. That is, until Orpheus comes along. At first, Hades tries to break him, showing him there's nothing he can do to change Hades' way, his way. But soon, Orpheus finishes his song, and Epic 3 is sung. Hades scoffs at it at first, believing his attempt to be futile, but soon the lyrics resonate with him. He remembers why he loved Persephone and how much he needs her. Persephone escapes her doubts of Hades being a good man, because Hades is reminded he loves her by this beautiful song. Their song isn't just about their love, though. It also mirrors Eurydice's and Orpheus's love as well. Hades soon lets Orpheus leave the underworld with Eurydice, but Orpheus is allowed to not look back to see if she's following. If he does look back, she will be sent back to the underworld and won't be able to leave with him back to the real world. He, even though he's come all this way and succeeded, still doubts all has gone well. He stays strong at first, but soon the Fates appear and doubt trickles in. He doubts Hades would ever let Eurydice go. He doubts his song was able to change Hades' heart and fate. All this doubt leads to him turning around right when he returns home. He had almost made it, but even he couldn't fully fight off doubt. He may have changed Hades' mind and his doubt, but he couldn't change or fight his own. The musical ends how it begins, and the story repeats itself with the same ending, presumably. A beautiful and sad ending. I cried twice watching this, once during the powerful Epic 3, the point the story had been building to, the big climax, and once at the end, after he looks back and I realize he's not going to get his happy ending. Hermes tells us that it is the ending and confirms what he said at the beginning. This is a tragedy. But as the cycle repeated, Hermes doesn't doubt anything will change, and instead hopes the show may end differently. And maybe one of these days it will. Hadestown was a great experience. I highly recommend it to anyone, and it's clear I'm putting this in perfect. Next, I watched Fight Club, which I surprisingly haven't been spoiled before this, and will not spoil it here either. The relationship between Edward Norton's character and Brad Pitt's is very well crafted, and it seems their personality and lifestyle is so different that they clash well together. Both actors did great in their roles. Both of their love/hate relationship with Marla Singer was very intriguing to watch unfold, and scenes with her became very more clear why they happened and what was going on with them towards the end with the big twist. There seems to be many sides to the message of this story, but the message I got out is you have to find a middle ground between a normal, boring corporate life and a life of complete chaos. Norton's character is clearly bored of his life and job at the beginning and needs just a little chaos or something fun in his life to help him get through the day. But on the opposite scale, Tyler Durden's life is so full of chaos and is a careless life that he has gone completely insane and is bringing others to his insanity level. The excellent acting, dialogue, and just the overall uniqueness of this film allows me to put it in great tier. Looking forward to watching it again and picking up on things I missed now that I know the twist at the end. Next, I watched Seven, and I rather enjoyed it. I don't think it's perfect like others say it is, though. I thought the movie was just good. It wasn't boring, but I wasn't really getting into it. It was well made, but still felt lacking in, I guess, originality is the word I'm looking for, but then that last 20 or so minutes hit, and I realized why everyone devours this movie. Those last 20 minutes are just so good and stressful. I think people judge this movie by this last 20 minutes, and that's why they give it a perfect score, but it's important to look at the movie as a whole. As I said, the rest of the movie was just good, a 4 out of 5, but the end is a perfect 5 out of 5, so I find it fair to meet in the middle here and give it a 4.5 out of 5, and as such put it in great tier, right behind Fight Club. It's a good watch that I don't regret, just maybe not as good as others make it out to be, in my opinion. Next, I watched Weird, the Al Yankovic story. I went into this not expecting much, and was pleasantly surprised. I love Weird Al's songs, and they always have me laughing. I think Almost Paradise is my favorite of his. The way the movie portrays him coming up with these parodies, especially the first one, is so funny and had me dying of laughter. The cameos were nice as well, and they didn't feel forced. None of them overstayed their welcome either. I do think the movie gets significantly less funny after about a fourth or so of the way through the movie. It doesn't get bad, but it doesn't stick with their super strong opening it had, which I think the opening was stellar. Also, this being a parody of singer/musician biopics just makes so much sense for this Weird Al movie. I've seen no biopic movies other than the ones making fun of them, like I've seen Dewey Cox and Popstar, and of those I think Popstar's the best. Even I think Popstar's a bit better than this even. Daniel Radcliffe is good as well in this. I had a good time with this movie and wouldn't mind watching it again in the future. I'll go ahead and put Weird in good tier. Next, I read Thrawn Ascendency Greater Good, which is the second book in the Thrawn Ascendency trilogy. I'm loving reading through these Thrawn books, and so far this is the weakest one. I don't think it's bad, quite the opposite. The action and dialogue are still really good, but I found there to be too much focus on the side plot and characters. Maybe that shouldn't be a complaint, but for a book called Thrawn, I was expecting more Thrawn. What we do get of Thrawn, though, is super fun, as always, but I just wanted more. The book is still good, but not greater good. You see what I did there? The book's called Thrawn Greater Good. Okay. I'll put it in good tier, right behind Weird. Next, I played Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I was getting more and more worried this game might not live up to the first one, or maybe the first one was only good because I was surprised it wasn't awful. Those fears were left to die though, because this game is amazing. It starts off a bit slow, although a lot of games do, but once it gets going, it's non-stop fun. The addition of voice acting was surprisingly not annoying and added a lot of charm and character into the story. The story, while not reaching the heights of, say, older Paper Marios or the Mario and Luigi games, it's still a step in the right direction from some of the modern Mario stuff. Even the side characters and villains were fun, and this is a freaking Rabbids game. My only complaint is the lag can get pretty bad at times, and there's a solid amount of glitches, So much so that I had to restart a phase of the final boss, which sucks. Those issues keep it from perfect status, so I'll go ahead and put Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope right behind Fight Club in great tier. Next, I watched Annette, a musical starring Adam Driver. I loved this movie. This movie is so bizarre yet funny and cool. I don't know if cool was the right word there. It makes both no sense but also makes enough sense where I can understand what it's trying to say and accomplish. It also gets surprisingly sad, which I was not expecting since I went into this completely blind. I have no idea what I just watched, even after watching it. It's because it was so absurd, and I loved it. The songs also add to the weirdness, and quite a few actually slap, and I could see myself listening to them outside the movie. The acting is great as well, and Adam Driver did beautiful throughout, but especially so in the final scene. It's not perfect, but it's super fun, sad, and weird all at once. I recommend it to anyone, and I'm going to put it in great tier, just behind Fight Club. Next, I watched Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's a good one. Hits the same Marvel beats, especially in the middle, but it is definite improvement. Angela Bassett's performance was easily the most emotional and probably the best performance in the entirety of the MCU. In fact, you could feel the emotion in all these characters because the loss they feel isn't fake, but rather one the actors can connect to because it's a loss they actually felt. And these emotions they're showing are real. This leads me to my next compliment of how they dealt with this loss. It being the MCU, I expected them to quickly move on from it, and it would feel disrespectful, but it surprisingly didn't. Instead, it felt like a tribute to Chadwick Boseman and what he meant to everyone he worked with. Those parts are good, but it still hits those same MCU beats I find boring and repetitive now. The villain's a bit of a step up from normal, and the CGI is a huge step up from Love and Thunder and even the first Black Panther. The movie feels long. Well, that's not the word for it, but it feels like, I guess the characters could have been more fleshed out isn't the right word, but what I'm trying to say is it feels long, but in like a non-boring way, but still in a kind of unnecessary way, if that makes sense. Ironheart, for example, feels important, especially at the beginning to the plot, but at the end she has nothing to do. But being the big fight, of course. I can't decide if she wasn't needed in the story at all, or if they should have just given her more to do, but then once again that would make it longer. There's other examples of this, but I don't want to ramble on, so let's go ahead and put Black Panther Wakanda Forever in good tier. Let's put it at the top. Next, I watched Fred Claus. Yippee! This movie was so mid. It goes on forever and has nothing of value in it. It simply exists, and it goes and it exists here, and I don't want to subject myself to it anymore because it's boring. I mean, it ain't bad, it's just boring, so I'm just gonna put it in it exists here. Hey, there it is. It's in exists here. I'm moving on. Bye. Next, I played God of War Ragnarok, which lives up to the hype and greatness of the 2018 one, which is surprising considering I already thought that one was perfect. The gameplay is the same, but since the gameplay was fun, it doesn't feel repetitive, maybe thanks to the few changes they made to it and the constant new moves you get from the skill tree. The story, like the 2018 one, is where this game thrives. The theme of fate and the characters trying to find out if fate really can be changed is super compelling and well executed through all its characters. Thor is just as menacing as I hoped and imagined, and Odin is super manipulative, which makes perfect sense for his character. The new characters we get are all fun, and the arcs of the ones we do know are both realistic and sometimes sad. Kratos growing to allow Atreus to be more free, despite what fate may say happens to him, is super sweet, and I love Kratos' arc of being a good dad. Don't get me wrong, War General and Mass Murderer Kratos was fun, but I love where this character and series are going now. This game is perfect, so let's put it there. We'll put it behind Hades Town. Next, I watched Moral Orel, and holy crap, it was good. The first to most of the second season is a great comedy, and still says a lot about religion. Not religion itself, really, but the members of it who twist its words to something bad and misunderstand its message. I feel bad for Orel, who just listens to his elders blindly since he's so young. He's such a sweet boy, and seeing these people around him essentially mind control and manipulate him to end up bad like them is kind of sad. The last 2 episodes of Season 2 and all of Season 3 have a little less comedic elements and go all out on the emotion, and even make you feel slightly bad for the evil elders because they were raised this way too.
Coach, you like my dad the way my mom likes my dad, don't you?
Your mom likes your dad?
This show really just hits you in the feels, from its compelling and sad characters to how those characters treat others around them, repeating the cycle. Moral Orel is great, and I'll put it there in front of Fight Club. Then I watched Strange World, which I thought was a pretty alright movie. It doesn't live up to Disney's last movie, Encanto, but it has a great message about legacy and family. The middle does drag. It wasn't boring, just felt like it didn't contribute much, and its theming feels like it takes a back seat during those parts. It picks it up again in the finale, though, where they finally question Jake Gyllenhaal's dad for leaving his family. Before, I felt like his actions were being defended, but in the end, they confront him finally, which was great to see. Just feel this confrontation would have been played out earlier realistically in this scenario, but whatever, it's a fine movie. I'm gonna go ahead and put Strange World in good tier, right behind Weird. It's Andor time. Andor's sweet, baby. Let's go. Star Wars is back again, and it's good. As you can tell, next I watched Andor. This show is so fantastic and feels unique for Star Wars, but also still feels like Star Wars. We essentially got both a heist movie and a jailbreak movie in Star Wars, which is awesome. The heist is great, and the characters in that arc feel real and fleshed out, so you want to see them succeed and not die. The jailbreak arc is perfect and probably the best Star Wars thing ever. Andy Serkis's character is wonderful and is super well written and acted by him. That moment when he reveals he can't swim was so impactful and shows how great a leader he was. He knew he would never get out of that prison since he can't swim, but even then, he still led everyone to freedom. Beautiful. The finale is great too. Seeing all these people be led together to rebel against the Empire gave me chills. I'm excited to see more of this show and what else they plan to do with it. I'll put Andor in great tier, behind Fight Club. Next, I watched Fabelmans, which is Steven Spielberg's new film that is roughly based on his own life. I loved this film. It's a movie about film itself, which does make it feel a bit cheap at times, but who cares, because he handles the sentimental moments super well in this movie. There's a surprising amount of comedic moments in this that I was not expecting, and that in no way takes away from the movie, of course, or its emotional moments, and most of them are actually funny. Seeing Sammy, which is the character based on Spielberg, use film to not escape from the hardships in life he's going through, but using them to funnel his feelings into and make great times, great for a low-budget film made by a kid, is amazing and really captures the art of film making and what great directors do to make great movies. Sammy's relationship with his parents is also really well put together, and the drama between them is very realistic and greatly done as a result. The movie brought me back to 2 years ago in my junior year of high school and the fun films I made with my friends in my film class. It reminded me how much fun I had directing. Those cheesy comedy films we made, they were fun. Fabelmans is great, and any movie enjoyer or future filmmaker should watch it. I'm going to put it in great tier, at the front. Lastly, I watched Glass Onion, which is the Knives Out sequel. While I don't think it lived up to the high standards of the first one, I still think this movie is excellent. It's similar to how Two Towers isn't quite as good as Fellowship, but it's still amazing. The characters, like the first one, are all mostly fleshed out, and it feels like any one of them could be the killer, although one may be a bit too obvious in my opinion. They all give great performances, and seeing Dave Bautista is great because I can tell that man loves making movies and always gives it his all. Daniel Craig is of course still great. Edward Norton is also a notable standout and gives a great performance as this Elon Musk, Jared Leto-like billionaire. And Janelle Monáe stands out too. The dialogue plus banter between the characters is great as well. The ending twist feels a bit more obvious than Knives Out, and the story's a bit messy, albeit slightly compared to Knives Out. But those are my only two complaints. There's another twist in the middle-ish of this movie that I think is super well done, and the scenes after provide a new perspective on the scenes before, which is done terrifically. I'm going to go ahead and put Glass Onion in Great Tier, behind Andor. Oh, look, Edward Norton's popping off in Great Tier. Look, he's got Fight Club in this. Anyway, that's every piece of media I watched in the month of November. We had some pretty good ones this month, and I'm looking forward to what we see next month. Nothing under It Exists. We don't have a bad or awful, which is good. Anyway, that's all. I'll see you guys on the flip side.